All right, grown-ups, it's just our time. I love the babies, but to help you, I gotta speak my mind. This segment's here to help you grow with book reviews, lessons, and things you'll be glad to know. If your little one's restless or looking to play, send them to my other playlist. The read-alouds there will brighten their day. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Teacher Lady Show. I'm Miss Erica, the Teacher Lady, your fairy godparent when it comes to sharing joyful stories and growing young minds. We have made it to week 23. All this week, we are talking about perseverance. What does it mean for our children or our students to push past those hard times to really get to the core of why they started in the first place? Chasing those goals, accomplishing those dreams, and just overall being the best person that they can be. And of course, we utilize picture books to be able to do so. If you have not done so yet, be sure to check out the read-alouds this week, which include Brave Ballerina, as well as Anansi the Spider. We also have 2 behind the book reviews on those read-alouds so that you know how to use those books as a resource to have more robust conversations with your little one and truly raise that child that is able to persevere, okay? Now, the point of the Teacher Lady Speaks is to take all the information that we talked about this week and then some and wrap it all up. On this segment, I'll be sharing things like resources, my experience as an educator, as well as ideas and just overall activities to make sure that you have information to help you raise a child that is ready to persevere. So, without anything else, let's go ahead and jump into it. You ready? Let's grow. Defining the topic of perseverance to a child. So, typically speaking, when we're explaining something to children, we want to put it in a way that feels like a story or something that they'll be able to relate to. And so what I would say is, do you remember when we had to make a cake for grandma's birthday and we had ran out of eggs, but we didn't have enough time to go to the store. And so we took a minute and we researched and we decided instead to use aquafaba. And the cake turned out great and it was delicious. And we had this moment of panic, but we decided we were going to do the cake anyway. That is called perseverance. Perseverance is any time things get tough or hard. You don't know what to do next. Somebody got in your way. A person said a mean thing. You got dismissed from a class game. It's those moments that feel like, what is the point of me doing this? And you pushing past them anyway. That is the definition of perseverance. And then, of course, I would talk to my child about ways in which they have persevered. When we went to your soccer game and you fell down, but then you kept going anyway and you had great attitude towards it all, that was perseverance. When we left your coat at home and it was really cold outside and, instead of you being upset about it and thinking, I'm just going to stay in a car and not participate, we used the blanket that was in the truck. That was a way in which you persevered. Persevered are all of these obstacles. Sometimes they're smaller and sometimes they're larger that you pushed past to get to the thing you want to do anyway. Okay. So bring in your child, bring in yourself, and truly discuss ways in which you've persevered and even ideas around how we can persevere when those challenging things happen. And the reason why you want to have these discussions before the big thing is because inevitably we will all face obstacles. Every single one of us is going to have hardships, oftentimes, frequently. All right. But the way in which we move past those hardships are what hold value. So if you have a child that is a perfectionist and they're always doing good at most things and they're about to start a new school and that new school is academically challenging, you might want to start the conversation about what it'll mean for them to persevere. What will it mean for them to not be the smartest one in the classroom? What will it mean for them to face hardship and how they should go about about getting past it and moving past it. So have the conversation early, have it frequently. Let's keep going. What your child can be expected to learn in public schools or sometimes in school in general. So as always, for this section of the segment, we compare the state of California to the state of Texas to figure out what it is that your child might be learning in class. All right. Now, so through the work of the California Department of Education, many schools embed social emotional learning or SEL in everyday teaching. Their framework, known as California Transformative Competencies, highlight 5 core competencies or sections around the topic of perseverance. So it's not exact, but it definitely goes around it. All right. This includes self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. So again, when we talk about perseverance, self-management in the state of California curriculum includes the ability to harness emotions, thoughts, and behaviors to achieve goals. So this includes delayed gratification, which is essential for persevering, managing stress, organizing action, setting goals, and bouncing back from setbacks. Self-management is described as the ability to harness emotions, thoughts, and behaviors to achieve goals. This includes delayed gratification, managing stress, organizing actions, setting goals, and bouncing back from setbacks. So this is all part of California framework around social emotional learning. This ties directly to perseverance because, of course, when a child perseveres, they have to try again. They need to adapt and stay focused. So it definitely falls under the SEL core framework. The state of Texas also has, underneath their physical education, they have a social and emotional health strand. And that health strand is specifically around getting children to persevere when it comes to physical kind of like limitations in regards to PE. So it is specific to PE, but it is still included in the curriculum. So health education in Texas also expects students to build goal setting as well as problem solving to foster character and well-being. So both with the state of Texas as well as the state of California, there are what I would say ways in which it's listed as important. So there isn't any core curriculum in the sense of like this week we're going to learn about perseverance, but it is definitely embedded in these different strands in both states. Overall, you will hear me say time and time again that regardless of whether or not the state curriculum says your child is learning the information, does not necessarily mean your child is learning the information. If you have a child who does not learn in a traditional way, meaning sit down and just listen to a teacher, they might not be learning what it is the teacher is trying to teach. If you have a child who is neurodivergent, if you have an English language learner, if you have a boring teacher who is inexperienced, the list continues of reasons why the information might be made available, but your child still is not getting it in school. So as always, I say that if it is important to you, you want to make it part of your home curriculum. You want to make it a part of your day-to-day so that your child understands what it means to persevere. Let's keep going. Resources. So here are some things that you can utilize to raise children who are ready to persevere. The first resource is called Character Lab. Character Lab is a research-based tool that offers activities to build grit, self-control, goal setting, and resilience. So this is a great resource for classrooms, after school programs, or even family nights. It is a program that involves the entire family, and so keep that in mind when you check it out. The next resource I'm going to bring your attention to is something that you might already have at home, and that is overall growth mindset, journals, writing, and just critical thinking around the day-to-day obstacles that your child might face. And so this can be as simple as goal tracking. Okay, your child is struggling to control their emotions for a certain reason or in a certain way. Let's say every time you ask them to take out the trash, they're angry and they get upset and they don't want to do it. And it's just this whole thing. And so one way to teach your child how to persevere is to track when they're actually persevering. I have found that things that are hard for one child come extremely easy for another. For a long time, I would hear people's stories. And, when you've experienced childhood trauma, it's easy to dismiss other people's truths or hardships because in your mind, they're just not that big of a deal. But they are a big deal because we all process information differently. We all process things differently. We all struggle with different things. And so what's hard for one person comes easy to another. And so this resource of just tracking the goal, tracking what was done well, tracking those moments of persevering really helps with that child that seems to always struggle. You have a child that it seems like as soon as something uncomfortable happens, they have a meltdown. Keeping track and writing about it and giving them a good job, a high five, a thumbs up, a sticker will really help to reiterate that hard thing happened and you did it anyway. So something as simple as a sticker chart, a journal, some way to track is also a great tool or resource when it comes to perseverance. Let's keep going. The next resource for persevering that I will want to share is to put your child in something that will challenge them. So it's almost like creating a situation to where inevitably they will experience obstacles. And this is great specifically for sheltered children, for entitled children, for children who do not have as many world experiences, okay? I remember doing something called Semester at Sea. Semester at Sea is a study abroad program where you get on a ship and you go to all these different countries, and it was a great experience. But what I found is I was one of few people that did not come from extremely wealthy backgrounds. So on the ship, you have the option to have your clothes serviced through like a dry cleaning service if you just got it like that, or you can do the regular laundry service. But I remember something had happened to where nobody could do laundry, okay? Like the dry cleaning service wasn't available. The washers and dryers, they just weren't working. And I remember my roommate freaking out. She was like having a complete meltdown around what she was going to do. She was already didn't have clean clothes and all of these kind of concerns that were very real for her. And I'm in the sink with Dawn dish soap and my underclothes and scrubbing and washing and wringing them out and drying them and having a very difficult time at the time understanding why she was so flustered. And I saw that time and time again. It was my first time being around children who came from very privileged backgrounds. And I noticed that every time there was a minor inconvenience, there was a freak out. Every time something happened where it was like a no-brainer for me to figure out how to solve it, they could not. And part of that, and now working with students who sometimes can come from entitled backgrounds or from privileged backgrounds, is a better way to say that, I have found that it's because you've never had to. If your child has never had to pick themselves up when they fall, they're not going to know how. You have to allow your child to learn through experiences, okay? This is like crucial. And so put them in gymnastics, even though they have no rhythm and coordination. Enroll them in that debate team, even though they have a hard time speaking up or speaking out. Truly put your child in situations that are going to challenge their comforts, because as a result, they will learn the process of perseverance and they will learn that it is possible. Once a child understands that they can do something and they can be good at it, it encourages them so much to go after it. All right. The next resource I want to bring your attention to is one around mindfulness. Better Kids Education, focused on social emotional learning. This app uses emotional learning games to teach children coping, regulation, resilience, and other inner work tactics that completely support and relate to perseverance. The next resource I want you to all check out to raise children who are ready to persevere is called Room Recess, a free platform of educational games that reinforce problem solving, academic skills, and things of that nature. So this is going to be how your child is able to work through challenges that require persistence and focus. So you remember earlier how I was saying sometimes when it comes to perseverance, you are going to create the situation in which your child has to persevere from. This website is definitely a tool that you could utilize to be able to do so. The last resource I am going to bring your attention to, and of course, if you want more, you know to go ahead and subscribe to my newsletter. Subscribe to my life, my channel, my newsletter. Follow me on Instagram, okay? Come say hello. But Turtle Diary. So Turtle Diary is an online website that has tons of different activities for children, specifically grades K through 5. And so when we speak of perseverance, perseverance is in any subject of our life. So this can be academic, it can be social, emotional, and more. And so Turtle Diary is specifically helps with academic activities and just getting your child involved in things that are going to challenge them in the digital space. So it is a good resource to check out first as a parent and see if it could benefit your child. Best practices. One of the best practices that you could utilize when it comes to raising children who are able to persevere is a rule that I have called try 3 before me. And what this means is your child has a challenge. They can't reach something. They can't tie something. Whatever the challenge might be, you know, kids stay with challenges. And instead of them coming to you and you instantly reprieving them of that anxiety or frustration, you're going to have them try and put effort into 3 different things before you help them out. Okay. I think I gave this example before, but I have a 7-year-old daughter, and my daughter was taking a bath and the shower head came down and fell down almost into like the where the bathtub water would be. And so she comes down and she says she can't reach it. She can't put it back. And of course, I told her, try 3 before me. Well, she only had to try 1. She took a step stool from another room, got on it, was able to put it back up in the shower, and felt extremely proud of herself. That is how you create children who are resilient. That is how you create babies who are able to move past challenges and obstacles. Things like encouraging them to use their creativity, to explore, to phone a friend, or to find a way outside of you to solve their problem is going to help them as they grow older. Along those same lines, when it comes to best practices, you're going to ask your child to help you. You have a problem in which you're struggling to persevere, in which you're struggling to overcome, and you're going to ask them what they would do or how they can help. The more that we involve our children in day-to-day situations, the more that we humanize ourselves as big adults who they think know everything, the more our child's brain gets to working on solutions. And that's why Anansi the Spider was such a powerful read aloud this week, because in that story, he relies on his sons in order to get him out of his situation or get him past that obstacle. Okay. Another best practice we discussed earlier, but it is to let your child struggle a little bit. They will be strong. I have recognized and realized that the more that I allow my students to explore, the children around me to explore, the more they come up with these awesome solutions. And they feel that every time a child gets something right after constantly getting it wrong, it helps to build mentally stronger children. It also helps to encourage them to believe in themselves. Perseverance and confidence really do go hand in hand. We have an entire week on confidence that you can also check out, but they tie together because when you are confident that you can do something, if you just keep going at it, you are more likely to persevere. You're more likely to try again. The next best practice is to not make such a big deal out of their shortcomings. Okay, so if they fall short, they didn't make that goal, they didn't pass that test. Not everything has to be a huge shout. Instead, focus on the solution. What are we doing next time to make sure that we don't have these same results? And then move past that. Because when you respond in such a big way to a mistake that they made, it gives them fear and anxiousness around even sharing their struggles with you. And as a child is growing, they need a soundboard. They need a person that they can come and say, hey, I'm having a hard time with this thing. And then you, as the grown up, as the parent, as the guardian, as the loved one, are not going to tell them step by step how to fix it. Instead, you're going to encourage them to continue to explore. And then the last best practice is truly patience. I feel like this generation has no patience. I feel like as soon as they post something, they expect it to go viral. As soon as they try something, they should be good at it. There is all of this emphasis around perfection and instant gratification. And we have to move our students away from that. Just because you did not sound good the first time you put your finger to that piano keys does not mean that you are not meant to be the world's greatest musician, okay? We have to move our children from the idea that they have to be great right away, that they have to do it well right away. All of these pressures that are actually not true. It takes a lot to be able to run a marathon, and it doesn't start with the marathon. And so really teaching our children that patience is crucial, that continuing something is important, to keep trying is important, and that all of these things will lead to a child that is confident and able to persevere is extremely meaningful. One more best practice. Comparison is often the thief of joy. And so often children will not try because they see somebody else who does extremely well at blank. And so they look at them and they say, well, they do this perfectly, so I'm not even going to try, because it's easier to not try than to try and fail. And so another best practice is to truly encourage your child to look at themselves, compare you to you. Last week, you weren't playing piano at all, and today you showed up for practice. Let that be enough. That is a step up. That is something to be proud of. Last week, when the trash fell out the trash bag and you got angry and stumped off, it took a lot of time to get you to calm down and emotionally regulate. And today, when some trash flew out, it wasn't a big deal. Really celebrate their wins. Really point out how they have persevered. Focus on the behaviors you want to see from your child and watch how that's amplified. Another key thing to keep in mind when it comes to perseverance is do not let that baby quit. They signed up for gymnastics. They go to gymnastics. They hate gymnastics. That's okay. You can hate gymnastics, but we're finishing this semester. We've invested in this semester. We've taken the time out to figure out how to get you there. We've bought the uniforms. We've gotten to know the teacher. You said you wanted to do it. Holding your child to the thing that they had committed to is so important, with the exception of it, of course, being dangerous, or you notice a huge impact on their mental toll. You want to hold them to that thing. Now, it doesn't mean that they have to do gymnastics next semester, because we didn't sign up for next semester. But when you have a commitment, which is really just like a life lesson you want your child to know, when you have a commitment, you follow through on that commitment, even if that commitment, and especially if that commitment is to yourself. It is also important to understand that perseverance is not always you. So in the book that we read this week, Brave Ballerina, she had to persevere because of hatred, because of racism, because of discrimination. Like, these are not things that she personally did and now has to overcome. They are it's a result of the society that she lives in. So I would also take note that there are different types of perseverance. Some of them are very internal, things that mentally you have to overcome and push past and get past because you are putting yourself in situations that are hurtful or harmful, or you're telling yourself you can't do it. Other times we have very real societal barriers like racism or sexism, like discrimination, like not being chosen or being left out or constantly being counted against. Okay. All of these are also forms of perseverance. So I would teach my child that sometimes you're persevering through things that you have control over, or that were caused maybe by a decision that you made or something that just randomly happened. And other times there are bigger things that we have to persevere and push past, but all of it is still worth it to reach that goal. Common questions. How can I teach perseverance without making my child feel pressured? There are times to where your child is going to feel pressured. Like, they are not mutually exclusive. Sometimes it's a combination, and sometimes they will just feel pressured. When a child is learning something new and you're telling them, like, you have to practice, you have to practice, you have to practice, they're going to feel that pressure. It's not always going to feel good. And I think such a huge part of teaching is recognizing that if we only play into the emotions that feel good, our children will not learn all that they need to learn. My daughter signed up to do dance this year, and she's with like a tough choreographer. Like, she don't play. Miss Gigi don't play. She's very serious about her dance class and her dance team. And my daughter is not. My daughter is very playful. She likes interpretive dancing and being over here and being over there. But she chose to join this disciplined dance group. And they have lines, and we're constantly telling her, go practice your lines. Nope, that's enough TV. Let's go over your lines. Let's go over your moves. Let's practice your moves. She feels that pressure. That is uncomfortable. It does not feel good. It would feel much better to snuggle up with some popcorn and watch Bluey. But the goal is to teach her to stay with what she started, to be the best at what you decided you want to do, and not the best for anybody else, but your best, to put the most effort that you can into the thing that you signed up for. She's going to feel that pressure. It's not going to feel good. But in January, when she goes to perform, she will love that. And all of that pressure and all of those moments of reminders and all of those annoyances and all of those perseverance would have been worth it. And that is what we are teaching our children, not to necessarily go along with everything that we feel in that moment and feed the immediate discomfort, but instead to persevere and push past for that bigger picture. Next question. What if my child gives up over and over again? Children's default mindset is comfort. So as soon as something becomes uncomfortable, most people, you could remove the word children, most people are going to go towards what makes them comfortable. Okay. Most bodybuilders do not like the physical training of bodybuilding right away. It is a muscle that is being built. And that's how you go about getting your child to continue. They need to realize that this is common for everybody. That athlete they love, that rapper they can't stop listening to, that person that is a phenomenal fashion designer or stage or set designer, all of them had these moments to where they did not want to do, and every single one of them had to push past that in order to be able to do it. So if you have a child that keeps giving up, you're going to keep reminding them not to. You're going to keep holding them accountable. It is a process. With children, you do not say something once and then they do it. Oh my gosh, my life would be so much easier. Okay. With all the students that are on my roster, it would be so much easier as an executive director in educational leadership if I told a kid something and I never had to tell it to them again. It's not true. It's not how children operate. And so if they keep giving up, you keep putting them in situations to where you encourage them to keep trying. You keep reminding, you keep telling, you keep doing. You keep going, and they will keep growing. The last question I received What is the difference between perseverance and grind and hustle culture? For those of you who don't know, grind and hustle culture is this idea that we just got to work more and work harder and we can just get our way to the top. It is the current day version of the American dream, or pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's that mentality. And I would say that the biggest difference between perseverance and this mentality of just running yourself into the ground to meet that goal and get that goal is that perseverance is essential for whatever you want to do in life. If your child crumbles every time something gets hard, they will be an adult who does not know how to handle situations. They will be an adult that quits before they get the degree. They will not apply for the job so that they don't have to get the call that they didn't get it. It will heavily hinder the quality of life that they have if you do not teach them perseverance, if you do not hold them to their decisions. That is much different from grind culture and hustle culture, because grind culture and hustle culture is embedded in this idea that you never stop. You never take a break. You keep going. You work harder. You do more. You don't need to breathe. Breathing is for people who are dead. Like, it's just this very weird, toxic way of thinking that does not allow for humans to be humans. That is not what we're going after. What we're going after is raising children who are resilient so that they can go into the world ready to be whatever it is they're supposed to be. Let's keep going. Wow, that was a mouthful. I really hope that this Teacher Lady Speaks episode helped you in some way. You were able to learn something or take something from it that will help you to raise students or children that are ready and able to move past life's inevitable challenges. Okay, we want to get our children away from victimhood and more into control, especially when they are responsible. So I thank you for learning with me today, for being part of this book loving community. If you did not know, I am also an author and illustrator of 9 children's books. Those beautiful books helped encourage the program called the Empathy Library. The Empathy Library is a pay-it-forward program that gets intentional books to children in need on purpose. So I love the example that we have a student that needs books, and they are from Honduras and they love dinosaurs. And so we get them a book that is in Spanish that has dinosaurs, because we know that literature is key when it comes to falling in love with literacy, which encourages a great reader. All right. So be sure to check out the Pay It Forward program. Be sure to check out my books, subscribe to the newsletter. And until next time, remember to enjoy the moment or go be a joy in the moment. Bye.